Alright guys, in today's video we are going to be discussing my absolute favorite camera, the Sony FX3, and everything about it and why I love it even after 3 years from this camera's release. Now it's pretty crazy to think that 3 years ago this camera came out, and when it came out, like, everyone thought this was like the next big kind of cinema camera after the A7S III. But even though there is a lot of similarities between this and the A7S III, I do love this camera more than the A7S III over time. There are a few things that I miss and we'll get more into it. But yeah, I've shot with this on pretty much every kind of scenario that I can think of. I've put it through everything and it's a complete workhorse, guys. I love the form factor of it. This is the 24-70 Mark II, and this lens pretty much lives on this camera 95% of the time. When I'm shooting corporate, commercial, weddings, you name it, this camera can pretty much do it all, especially with this lens. And obviously, if you guys remember when the Creator came out, this was like a huge hype for the FX3. But even before that came out, the FX3 was always a very, very reliable and capable camera. Now, even though it has the same sensor as the A7S III, one of the things that I really like about this camera is obviously the body. Being more of a square body, we have a lot of these ports that we can obviously mount different things, and I absolutely love it. I'm obviously a little bit more careful with my gear, so I've always have the small rig cage, but it even looks like it's actually a part of the body of the FX3. Obviously, some of the other features that I love on this camera is obviously the tally lights. So when I hit the record button, you'll notice that it's red here, it's red here on the back and here. So you know that you're recording. There's a lot of times that I've recorded with the A7S III or the A7 IV where you've only got that kind of red bar, and sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you'll forget. So being able to see it at the front here, up here, back here, and on the screen, I mean, it's just awesome. Obviously, you have XAVCS in 4K up to 120 frames. You also have XAVCS All-I if you need obviously that higher bitrate when you're doing kind of like green screening, or if you have very fast motion like you're doing like racetracks or anything like that. That's when it's really good. But this camera has really served me everywhere. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's obviously been the new release of the Canon R5 Mark II, the Canon R1, we've obviously got the Canon R3 and all these other great cameras, but for the price that this is and what you get in this body, it's honestly phenomenal. The dynamic range is fantastic. I mean, like, let's get into the low light. This is obviously the best low light in the grade of cameras that are out currently in the market. This and the A7S III honestly kill it in low light, guys. Obviously, you can't just shoot in it and expect amazing results. Low light comes with knowing and understanding how to light, but it will help you a lot in a lot of scenarios where other cameras probably wouldn't be able to do as much as these cameras can. So being able to shoot this at 12,800 ISO, and obviously the base ISO being it's always a bit confusing. I think it's 640 because at 640 there isn't a line underneath that tells you, this is sort of the native, and then others say 800. I think this is actually ISO 640, and then the second base ISO is 12,800. And the reason I say that is because I use flexible ISO, not CineEI. When you use CineEI, I'm pretty sure that you need to be on ISO 800. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm very certain this is 640 and 12,800. I mean, it's the same as the A7S III, so I'd imagine they'd be both the same in that sense. But overall, honestly, guys, like, I absolutely love everything about this camera. I remember when I got this camera a couple years ago, I bought this actually secondhand from memory, and I bought it from a guy that does all these rock climbing videos, and he's great. And I said to him, would you be willing to trade an A7S III for the FX3 plus cash? And he said yes. So I ended up getting this. I got the top handle as well, and the rest is history. And honestly, like I said, I've pretty much used this as my A cam for everything. And not only do I do videos on this, guys, yes, I do take professional photography as well. I know it's 12 megapixels, but for everything that I've done for social media and everything like that, this has been more than enough. It's honestly fantastic. And if I was to ask you if this is an FX3 photo or an A7 IV or a Canon R5, I bet you probably wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, without cropping. Obviously, when you crop, it's a different story, but I like the fact that having a lower megapixel makes you have to be more fixated on getting the shot correctly, or taking one wide and then one close up in camera rather than having to do it in post. A few things that I would love to see in a possible new version of the FX3 whenever that comes out is obviously the LCD. The LCD is very small, 1.8 million dots. It's not great compared to a lot of other LCDs on the market. So it's pretty low resolution. It's not very bright. I'd love to see a brighter screen, a higher resolution screen, especially because we only have the LCD and we don't have a viewfinder. That's super important in my mind, and I would love to see that feature added on. Besides that, I mean, we pretty much got everything that we could possibly want. One thing I would love personally is internal NDs. I know that it would make the camera a little bit bigger, but I'm willing to accept that if we can have that. Sort of like the FX6, but if we can have it in a more kind of friendly form factor where it's just maybe a little bit bigger than this, that'd be amazing. And obviously, one of the other great things what Sony's been doing with these cameras is we're obviously getting regular updates, firmware updates. Hasn't been that frequent, which sucks. The next one will be in September, which will be getting shutter angle, which I'm super excited about, and which will technically make it almost a real cinema camera, or at least getting its steps up there to the cinema line. But otherwise, overall, guys, honestly, absolutely love this camera. Would I recommend it in 2024? I will even recommend it in 2025, 2026. I think this camera is going to be relevant for many, many more years to come. And at the end of the day, guys, while it's exciting to get like all these latest and greatest new cameras, you honestly don't need it. Use the tools that you have available, and if you can get a camera like this with a lens like this, the 24-70 Mark II, or even just the original 24-70, the only reason I sold it personally was because this is obviously a lot lighter. It's got the aperture rings here, and obviously the fact that you can get a little bit closer in terms of the focusing distance. So if you're doing product photography or anything like that, you can get nice and close, which I really like. But overall, guys, the camera at the end of the day is a tool. If you understand how to use the tool, you understand lighting and the fundamentals, you're going to get a beautiful image. Obviously, having a nice camera will help, but at the end of the day, it's reliant on you and your ability to get that beautiful shot. Anyway, with that being said, I've obviously given the FX3 a lot of praise. There's not a lot of things that I don't like about it, genuinely, to be honest. Like, the one thing I do miss, like I said now and then, is the eye viewfinder, but besides that, there's nothing too much about it. I really do like everything about this camera. Obviously, you've got the two CF Express slots in here that can also do SD cards as well, which I love, same as the A7S III. So it's very similar in many ways. I like the fact that we got the same batteries that are compatible between the A7 IV, the A7C II, and obviously all these other cameras as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, guys, overall, an amazing camera. And if you don't have one already and you're in the market for a Sony camera, the FX3 is pretty fantastic, guys. Really depends what you guys want to do. If you guys are not hybrid shooters, if you guys are hybrid shooters, I would probably recommend something more like the A7 IV, which I'm filming on right now, which is an incredible camera as well. But for overall, if you're doing more video and you like to take photos, the FX3 is incredible. Even the A7S III is awesome, but this has become my A-cam for everything. It's a workhorse, guys. I use it in hot weather, cold weather, even in the rain. I've never had issues, guys. Absolute beast of a camera, guys, and can't recommend it enough. Anyways, that is it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, click that like button, smash it if you're into that, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay safe, be well, see you soon.